The Atlantic Ocean during World War II, a vast, restless expanse stretching from the icy shores of Newfoundland to the battered coasts of Great Britain. It was here, across these frigid waters, that the fate of nations would be decided. The Atlantic was not just a body of water, it was a battlefield, a lifeline, and a graveyard all at once. It was a cold, grey, and unforgiving place. The wind howled relentlessly, churning the sea into a ceaseless turmoil. For the men who sailed these waters, every day was a test of endurance and courage. The Atlantic's chill seeped into their bones, and the ever-present threat of attack haunted their every waking moment. Above the surface, convoys of merchant ships braved the elements and the enemy, carrying vital supplies, food, fuel, weapons to keep Britain alive. But the Atlantic was a swirling vortex of destruction, where men and machines clashed in a titanic struggle. Explosions lit up the night as ships fought desperately to survive, their crews locked in a battle not just against the enemy, but against the sea itself. Beneath the waves, a different kind of war was waged. U-boats, the silent hunters of the deep, stalked their prey with deadly patience. Hidden from sight, they glided through the darkness, listening for the telltale sounds of propellers above. The ocean depths became a realm of shadows and secrets, where a single mistake could mean disaster. These submarines were the terror of Allied shipping, sinking thousands of tons and bringing Britain to the brink of starvation. Each torpedoed ship was a blow, not just to the war effort, but to the morale of those fighting to keep the sea lanes open. The U-boats struck without warning, vanishing into the depths before help could arrive, leaving only oil slicks and debris as evidence of their passing. Among these underwater predators, one commander became a legend, Ulrich Mohr, the Phantom of the Atlantic. Mohr was more than just a skilled tactician. He was a master of stealth and deception, a man whose name inspired both fear and respect. His reputation grew with every successful patrol, every daring escape from the jaws of destruction. Mohr's story is one of daring raids, narrow escapes, and incredible resilience. He led his crew through some of the most dangerous waters on Earth, outmaneuvering destroyers and dodging depth charges with nerves of steel. Inside the cramped, claustrophobic hull of his U-boat, every man depended on his skill and calm under pressure. The tension was constant, the stakes unimaginably high. He was a phantom, appearing and disappearing at will, always a step ahead of his enemies. Allied captains spoke of him in anxious tones, never knowing when or where he might strike next. To his crew, he was a leader who inspired loyalty and confidence, guiding them through the darkness with unwavering resolve. His exploits became the stuff of legend, whispered among sailors in hushed tones. Stories of his cunning maneuvers and miraculous escapes spread from ship to ship, growing with each retelling. In the crucible of the Atlantic, where every day could be your last, Ulrich Mohr became a symbol of the relentless, shadowy war beneath the waves. This is his story. Ulrich Mohr was born in 1904 in a small German town nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers. The world he entered was one of change and uncertainty as the old empires of Europe teetered on the brink of transformation. From a young age, Ulrich was captivated by stories of adventure and exploration, tales of distant lands and the vast, mysterious oceans that separated them. His father, a stern but loving man, often spoke of the sea as a place of both danger and opportunity, a place where a man could test his courage and find his destiny. Growing up in Germany during the early 20th century, Ulrich was surrounded by the sights and sounds of a nation rebuilding itself after the devastation of the First World War. The bustling harbours, the distant call of seagulls, and the salty tang of the sea air all called to him. As a young man, he would often wander the docks, watching ships come and go, dreaming of the day he might set sail himself. The sea, with its promise of freedom and adventure, became his greatest fascination. Driven by this longing, Ulrich joined the German Navy as soon as he was able. The Navy offered him not just a career, but a calling, a chance to serve his country and to master the unforgiving sea. Through hard work, discipline, and a keen mind, Mohr quickly rose through the ranks. He earned the respect of his peers and the trust of his superiors, proving himself to be both a natural leader and a skilled tactician. On board ship, Mohr was known for his calm under pressure and his ability to make quick, decisive choices. He studied the art of naval warfare with relentless determination, learning every nuance of navigation, strategy, and command. His fellow officers admired his dedication, and his crew trusted him implicitly. Mohr's reputation as a leader grew with every voyage. When World War II erupted across Europe, Mohr was ready. The German Navy, recognizing his talent and resolve, entrusted him with command of his own U-boat, a sleek, deadly vessel designed for stealth and surprise. For Mohr, it was the culmination of years of preparation and ambition. He accepted the responsibility with pride, knowing the challenges that lay ahead. The U-boat was a formidable weapon of war, capable of staying submerged for days at a time, hidden from enemy eyes beneath the waves. Life aboard was cramped and perilous, but Mohr and his crew were united by a sense of purpose. They trained relentlessly, preparing for the moment when they would be called upon to strike. The U-boat could strike without warning, launching torpedoes at unsuspecting targets before vanishing into the depths. Mohr's crew, young and eager, were determined to prove themselves in the crucible of battle. Each mission was a test of nerve, skill, and teamwork, a deadly game of cat and mouse played out beneath the waves. Their primary target was the Allied shipping convoys that crossed the vast Atlantic, carrying vital supplies to Britain and beyond. For Mohr and his men, the ocean became both battlefield and home. They would become the bane of Allied shipping, feared and hunted, yet always elusive. The Atlantic, with its storms and secrets, was their hunting ground. In time, Mohr and his crew would earn a reputation that echoed across the seas. They would become known as the Phantom of the Atlantic, silent, relentless, and nearly impossible to catch. Their story was just beginning, and the world would soon learn to fear the shadow beneath the waves. Life aboard a U-boat was cramped and claustrophobic. Every inch of space was precious, and privacy was a luxury no one could afford. The men slept in shifts, often sharing bunks still warm from the last occupant. The constant hum of machinery and the ever-present vibration of the engines became a part of daily life, a reminder that they were deep beneath the waves, far from the world above. The air was thick with the smell of diesel and sweat. With every breath, the crew inhaled a mixture of oil, metal, and the lingering scent of unwashed bodies. There was no escape from the oppressive heat, especially when the submarine was running silent, engines off, and ventilation limited. The men lived and fought in these steel coffins, their world reduced to a narrow tube of metal surrounded by the crushing pressure of the deep sea. They faced constant danger. Every patrol was a gamble with fate. Depth charges could shatter their hulls in an instant, sending torrents of icy water flooding in. The crew would brace themselves, hearts pounding as explosions rocked the submarine, the lights flickering and dust falling from the ceiling. Each attack was a test of nerves, a reminder that death could come at any moment, from above or below. Enemy aircraft were a constant threat. The men listened for the distant drone of engines, knowing that discovery could mean destruction. Even on the surface there was no safety. The ocean, vast and empty, offered little protection from the eyes in the sky. Yet they persevered, driven by duty and the hope of returning home. They were bound by duty and camaraderie. In the close quarters of the U-boat, every man depended on the others for survival. Mohr, their commander, was a firm but fair leader. He understood the weight of responsibility that rested on his shoulders, and he never let his men forget the importance of their mission. He inspired loyalty in his men. Through his calm in crisis and his unwavering resolve, he earned their trust. They would follow him anywhere, even into the most dangerous waters. His presence was a steadying force, a beacon in the darkness of the deep. He understood the importance of morale. In moments of fear or doubt, he found ways to lift their spirits, whether through a quiet word, a shared joke, or a simple gesture of reassurance. He kept his crew focused on their mission, reminding them of the purpose behind their sacrifice. He knew they were fighting for their country, but more than that, they were fighting for each other, for the brotherhood forged in the depths. Every day was a test of courage and endurance, and together they faced the unknown, determined to survive against all odds. Mohr's U-boat, the Atlantis, was a raider. Its mission was to disrupt Allied shipping. It roamed the Atlantic, a lone wolf hunting in a vast ocean. The Atlantis sank or captured dozens of ships. It was a nightmare for the Allies. Mohr became known for his daring and ingenuity. He would often disguise his U-boat. He would use fake flags and funnels. He would even disguise his crew to look like merchant seamen. These tactics allowed him to get close to his targets. He would then strike with deadly precision. Life on the Atlantis was a constant game of cat and mouse. The U-boat would stalk its prey. Allied destroyers and aircraft would hunt for the hunter. The tension was, well, palpable. Every encounter was a brush with death. Mohr's skills were tested to the limit. He used his cunning and his knowledge of the sea to evade his pursuers. He would disappear into storms. He would hide in shipping lanes. He was a master of deception. The Allies were desperate to stop him, but the Atlantis and its phantom captain remained elusive. One day the Atlantis encountered a heavily armed British cruiser. The Atlantis was outgunned, but Mohr was not deterred. He ordered his crew to battle stations. The two ships exchanged fire. The sea erupted around them. The Atlantis fought bravely, but it was a losing battle. Mohr knew he had to make a decision. He ordered his crew to abandon ship. He then scuttled the Atlantis. He watched as his ship, his home, slipped beneath the waves. Mohr and his crew were picked up by the British. They were taken prisoner. Mohr spent the rest of the war in a POW camp. He refused to give up hope. He maintained his dignity and his sense of duty. He earned the respect of his captors. When the war ended, Mohr returned to Germany. He was a hero to his people. He had survived against all odds. He had fought bravely for his country. He was the phantom of the Atlantic. Ulrich Mohr's story is a remarkable one. He was a skilled sailor, a cunning tactician, and a courageous leader. He was a phantom, a ghost, a legend. He was the phantom of the Atlantic. His story reminds us of the human cost of war. It reminds us of the courage and resilience of those who fought in it. Mohr's story also reminds us of the importance of the Atlantic theatre in World War II. The battle for the Atlantic was a close-run thing. If the Allies had lost, the war could have had a very different outcome. Ulrich Mohr's story is a reminder of the power of the sea. It is a reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath its surface. It is also a reminder of the bravery and sacrifice of those who sail in harm's way. The phantom of the Atlantic may be gone, but his legend lives on.